So let's go on to the first slide. And let's talk about the issue of geographically distributed teams in Agile. Agile was originally created for co-located teams, and we have many, many rituals and ceremonies for cross-functional and near-to-each-other people. So when you have a geographically distributed team, you might be saying, I don't know how to do this business with standing up. How do we even have a time when all of us can be in the same room together, or at least in the same time, on the time-space continuum together? But here's what the data says. About half of all Agile teams are either distributed or dispersed. So in the past, people have said, well, just don't do that. But saying don't do that is not very helpful. So let's first think about what kind of a team do you have? So let's see if I can get the pointer here. I think that you can see, yeah. So if you have a co-located team, that means that you're inside of 60 meters apart, right? You are all on probably the same floor. You're all together. You have a cross-functional co-located team. Now, what if you have a distributed team, but it's feature-based, right? This is the second top right corner. So you have feature teams, and they're separated from each other. So maybe you have 3 feature teams in your small program, but every location has its own feature team. Now, there's yet another way to talk about dispersed teams, and that's the bottom right-hand corner. The dispersed teams here say we have 1 person in Colorado, 1 person in Boston, 1 person in India, 1 person in Paris, right? Or maybe that's not where you have your people, but that's the idea that we have onesies and twosies in all kinds of places. That is a really difficult approach to Agile, and I'm going to be talking about that today. And what if you have siloed teams? The left quadrant here, the left bottom quadrant, that's where you have developers in one place, testers in another place, product owners in yet a third place, possibly project managers or program managers in a fourth place. I see these last two things often, right? The bottom half of this graphic. Yes, I did the graphic. You can tell people don't pay me for my graphic abilities. But if you have co-located teams, Agile can be easy. Well, at least easy to do in principle. If you have distributed teams where people are all over the globe, but they're feature teams, Agile can still be easy. But once you have dispersed teams and siloed non-co-located teams, Agile starts to be pretty darn hard. So let's actually ask, how new are you to Agile? And maybe you can answer in the chat. You can say, let me explain this picture for a minute. Ideas come into the organization. Somebody who's a responsible person takes all of those ideas and creates a ranked backlog. The ranked backlog goes into this cross-functional team, and then periodically, I like every other day or so, the cross-functional team finishes complete work. Right, so you can finish one small thing and then another couple of small things. You keep adding to that finished complete work. After a while, say every couple of weeks, the team reflects on this process and does maybe a formal demo or a formal show and tell to that responsible person. And when you see that, when that responsible person sees that, they end up creating a new ranked backlog or changing what the team needs to work on next. So the team keeps pushing out, for lack of a better word, fully functioning, releasable product. And my question to you is, when you look at this picture, do you say, I don't know, that's not quite what we're doing, right? That's the first option. I thought I knew what Agile meant, but when I look at your picture, I'm not so sure. Or are you in the second bullet, where we have the rhythm of the iterations or the concept of flow, but we don't actually get to this releasable product on a regular basis? Or are you in the third bullet? Many of our iterations are shippable. Our testers are integrated into our iterations. So it's not that you're doing development first inside an iteration and then testing, but everyone is together integrated. And are you in the fourth bullet, where we treat every iteration as if it's our last? Every iteration is shippable. So maybe you can say to me in the chat where you are. Are you number 1? Are you number 2, number 3, or number 4? So we have at least one person who says third bullet. I see 3s. I see 2s. That's in 3s. Means that you're at least figuring out what to do. And someone says we embrace Agile and Scrum framework, but struggle with incremental iterative release, especially working on incorporating more continuous integration and testing. So for those of you who are struggling, who are in at least number 2, I see a number 1 over here. You really want to figure out how can you get the team to work together. And if you're at number 3, the good news is you're pretty darn close to what we want as an Agile approach, right? Sometimes you mess up, but by and large you could release if you wanted to. So thank you for telling me where you are, because now I can push this. I can think about you folks are numbers 2s and 3s by and large. And for those of you who are still number 1, if you want, you can read stuff on my blog. Look at the tag called Transition to Agile. And for those of you who are number 4, I'm assuming it's all about how to get the team working better. So I'm going to pitch this presentation to numbers 2 and 3, where you have the rhythm of iterations or the concept of flow, but you're not always releasable. And number 3 is many of our iterations are shippable. Our testers are integrated, but maybe you want to figure out how do we make things just a little bit better. Okay, so let's go into the tips. The first one is chartering the project. If you don't know about project charters, you might want to take a look at some. I've written a bunch of articles about it. I have a number of tips, well, a whole chapter in chartering the project in Manage It, Your Guide to Modern Pragmatic Project Management. So the idea in chartering is not that a project manager creates the vision, but the team creates the vision. Why are we doing this project? What is the output? What will people be able to do once they're done with this project, right? When we release this product, what is the vision of what people can do with it? That allows you to create release criteria. Ray says, like a theme for a release. Yes, Ray, that is like a theme. I'm suggesting that you actually write this down and have it as a whole document on a shared wiki or a shared forum, whatever you use for sharing project documents. So, with the vision, you can also know what done means for the entire release. You know what done means for stories, right? That's incorporated into the story.